You've probably heard this story a million times. Michael Jackson bought the Beatles songs and owned them forever. It sounds like the ultimate power move from the king of pop, right? Well, what if I told you that story is almost completely wrong? Let's break down what really happened. And I promise, the truth is way more interesting than the myth. It all starts in 1985. Michael Jackson, at the peak of his fame, makes a huge purchase. He buys a company called a TV Music Publishing for a cool $47.5 million. Now, here's where the first big misunderstanding kicks in. This company didn't own the actual Beatles recordings. You know, the songs you play on Spotify or a record player. It owned the publishing rights. Think of it like this. Publishing rights are for the sheet music, the lyrics, the melody, the song itself as it was written down. This meant Michael could decide if a Beatles tune appeared in a movie, a TV show, or a commercial. He was the gatekeeper for licensing, which is a massive deal, but it's not the whole picture. So, here's the first shocker. Michael Jackson never owned the master recordings. The masters are the original final studio recordings of the songs. Those have always been owned by record labels, primarily EMI. So, Michael controlled the songwriting, but the record label controlled the actual performance you hear. It's a subtle but crucial difference. Ready for shock number 2? He didn't even own all of the Beatles songs. The ATV catalog mainly covered the legendary songwriting partnership of John Lennon and Paul McCartney. It didn't include every single song they ever wrote together, and it largely left out the amazing tracks written by George Harrison and Ringo Starr. So, the idea that he owned the entire Beatles collection is simply not true. But the biggest plot twist is still to come. Michael Jackson eventually lost control of everything. By the mid-90s, he was facing some serious financial trouble. To get some cash, he merged his company ATV with Sony to create Sony ATV Music Publishing. This gave him a much-needed financial boost, but diluted his control. Then years later, the final move happened. Sony bought out Michael's remaining share of the company for an incredible $750 million. From that day forward, Michael Jackson no longer owned any part of the Beatles' publishing rights. So where are those rights today? They're fully controlled by Sony Music Publishing. Not Michael Jackson's estate, not Paul McCartney or Ringo Starr, but a massive corporation. The story that Michael Jackson snatched up the Beatles' entire musical legacy and held on to it forever is one of the biggest myths in music history. He made an incredibly smart business move for a time. But he never owned the masters. He never owned all the songs. And in the end, he sold the rights he did have. Now you know the real story. Thanks for watching. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure to like and subscribe for more.